We're going to pass the baton to your BBC monitoring colleague, Kerry Allen. And Kerry, you've just published a piece on what is happening basically between Chinese and British relations when we think about what is happening in terms of Hong Kong and the breakdown of relations. Is that fair to say?
It is, absolutely, yes. I mean, I've seen for a number of years now this phrase used again and again to talk about the relations between the two countries, a golden era. It started with David Cameron's when he was Prime Minister and Xi Jinping visited the UK. That was when this phrase was used constantly. I mean, this was going back to the early 2010s. And then what happened was when Theresa May became Prime Minister, similarly, Chinese media and both her government, they were using this phrase again and again. And literally, it's just been in the last 2 weeks. And it's because of this a lot of the dialogue to do with Hong Kong, the Foreign Ministry, different politicians weighing in on it in the UK. So Dominic Raab, for example, saying that he thinks there needs to be an independent investigation into what's happening and suggesting that Hong Kong's chief executive sit down with protesters. China has lost it. China has gotten very, very angry about this. Well, it originally started just with the usual comments that I'd expect, things like the UK should not interfere with Chinese affairs and the reiteration that Hong Kong is an area that the UK gave back to China in 1997. But it's been more than that. So it started with this, just a reiteration that Hong Kong is China's Hong Kong, and it's increasingly moved on to let's look back at what previous British politicians did when dealing with riots. And there's been this big propaganda campaign going back and looking at even David Cameron's cabinet, and bear in mind relations were very, very strong between Xi Jinping and David Cameron, and saying how he dealt with the London protests. Showing police there being very heavy-handed, also calling out Margaret Thatcher's government for the way they dealt with the miners' strike back in the 1980s, and very much saying the UK is a hypocrite. This is how its government dealt with demonstrations. It shouldn't be involving itself in Chinese affairs, basically.
And when we look at this, can we infer from this that the strength of what has happened over Hong Kong has been incredibly strong, or the golden relationship was just quite flimsy anyway?
I don't think it was flimsy, no. I mean, it was used again and again, and I think if there was an opportunity to say that it might have fallen through, it might have come with the UK referendum in 2016. So then there was the suggestion that, I mean, China was very wary about this. It was saying that it had strong relations with a lot of European countries, and it was wondering how it was going to work with the UK potentially exiting the European Union. But they carried on using this phrase of a golden era and saying that they were strong as ever when Theresa May was Prime Minister. And they really, really did reiterate that nothing is going to break this down. But when it comes to Hong Kong, I don't think it expected the strength of reaction from the UK Foreign Secretary and the Foreign Ministry as a whole. So China very, very angry about this. And it had been calling out the US already and saying that shouldn't interfere in Chinese affairs. But now the UK's come into it as well.
Very briefly, what's happening with chicken in Shanghai?
Chicken. There's this wonderful video today. So yesterday...
This is a different topic, I should point out.
Yes. So Costco, the US wholesaler, has opened its first store in Shanghai. It opened yesterday. And again, we have to bear in mind that a lot of US companies are leaving the Chinese market at the moment. But there have been stampedes. The store opened yesterday in Shanghai. There's video footage of people trying to open the shutters, crawl in, run in as soon as possible, and fights over rotisserie chickens. So this woman basically saying, don't touch these chickens, they're too hot, and
bbc.com/news, you'll find the video there. Kerry Allen, our China media analyst, thank you very much for bringing that to us. You're listening to OS on the BBC World Service with me, Luke Jones.